A mountain of a man, John Ray Gordon, peacefully transitioned from this life on April 1st of 2020 at his home surrounded by friends and family singing him into his eternal reward. He lived a life so rich in love that encapsulating it in a few words is woefully inadequate. He was preceded to glory by his godly parents, Jake and Christine Gordon. He is survived by a multitude of family and friends, some of whom are as follows: his precious wife, Karen Gordon; his loving siblings, Shirley Simpson, Billy Ulmer, Diane Harris with Frank, and Scott Gordon with Julie; his beloved children, Andrew Gordon, John Gordon, and Martha Newman with Kyle; his equally loved stepchildren, Kevin Bailey with Melissa, Kimberly Downing with Stuart, Christy McNeil with Bruce, and Joshua Bailey with Laura; his adored 14 grandchildren, Neely and Jackson Gordon, John Asher and Nora Jane Newman, Whitney, Claire, and Samantha Bailey, Alyssa, Lucas, and Caleb Downing, Trey, Hudson, Charlotte, and Archer McNeil, and other friends and family too many to mention. All who knew John saw the abundant life he lived, abundance of love and laughter. He was regularly heard to declare that he was of all men most blessed, and all with whom he came in contact were recipients of the overflow of blessing that his heart exuded. A native of Pocahontas, Arkansas, John spent his life seeking any way possible to share the love of God that he knew so intimately with people all over the globe. From his much-loved home of Fayette to the far reaches of the world, Ukraine and Jamaica, just to name a couple. He was a bright light in a dark world, sharing his smile and laugh and song in such a way as to become a man who seemingly everyone knew and loved and respected. The heart of a servant was beautifully displayed in the heart of John in a multitude of ways. He served the world around him diligently with excellence, most recently as Fayette County Administrator for near 2 decades. Prior to that, his work included independent life insurance agent, marketing for Fayette's own Foodway Incorporated, and Terra Resources. He was a beloved fixture with the Fayette County High School athletics, being a stadium announcer for several decades. He will forever be known as the voice of the Tigers at football games. His beautiful singing voice was known far and wide for years of sharing it, possibly the greatest of which was as Scrooge in the local Christmas favorite, The Gospel According to Scrooge. He faithfully served in various roles with 3 Fayette churches, the most recent of which was his cherished family at Crossview Community Church. Of all the diligent work he did throughout his life, his work with his fellow Christ followers to the world was considered by him as his highest professional honor and responsibility. His God-given ability to deeply connect with people made him a success in all he did, above all, in his personal ministry. John will be remembered and missed by thousands of people blessed to have known him over the years. He loved life and was most excited about his life to come. From his initial liver cancer diagnosis, he had consistently said his heart was ready to go on home, wherever the Lord led his health. Scripture proclaims that to live is Christ and to die is gain. No man more closely exemplified this hope than John Ray Gordon. For knowing him, we are of all people most blessed.
Hey friends, this is Chris Champion, and I want to take just a few minutes to talk about my friend John Gordon. As I made a Facebook post shortly after learning of John's homegoing, I said that I referred to John Gordon as my best good friend, as Forrest Gump would say. And we called each other our longtime male companion, jokingly, here at the radio station. Just over my shoulder there is where John would sit across from me most every morning for about 11 years. And I would not trade one single second of that time that we got to spend together. We laughed a lot, we cut up a lot, we shared views on a variety of subjects together, and all right, I'll tell the truth, we gossiped a little bit too. But I learned more in the 11 years from that man than a lifetime of university studies could have taught me. Not only just when I would ask his opinion about something or we would talk about a certain issue, but just watching him every single day. He was the epitome of a friend. The loyalty, the compassion, the kindness, and the generosity that he showed me can never be forgotten and will certainly always be treasured. I first met John when I was working at the newspaper back around 13, 14 years ago. and would cover the county commission meetings, and he would help me in any way possible when I was trying to find out information about something that the county commission was working on. And then fast forward to 2009, and when I had the opportunity to come back here, this was my first radio job back in 1985, so I guess you'd say I've gone full circle. But I saw John in Walmart one night, and I could just about take you to the exact spot in the store where we met. It was around Christmas time. It was just a week or two before I was going to start back here in January of 2009. But he walked up to me, and the first words out of his mouth were, "I hear I've got a new morning call partner." And we stood there and talked about different things, and he told me how excited that he was, and shortly thereafter he got me to start helping him at the football games by spotting for him and running the scoreboard. And so yeah, I guess you would say it was true. He was my longtime male companion. But back to that friendship and that generosity and that loyalty and that compassion and that kindness. That's what I'll always remember the most about John. Whether I was doing something for him or he was doing something for me, there were never any questions whatsoever. He would either call me and say, "Hey, I need some help," or I would call him, and never any of, "Well, what's in it for me?" or "Oh, why are you asking me to do something like this?" It was, "All right, I'll be there." And he was every single time. The Tuesday that was turned out to be his last day here at the radio station, Sweetness, I almost said Karen, Sweetness came in with him, and she was the last person that I hugged because they had started all the social distancing stuff, and I just couldn't help myself. I just said, "Well, I know we're not supposed to do this, but I'm going to hug you," and I did. John and I would fist bump every morning, whether or not we were doing social distancing or not. That was our preferred method of greeting when he would come around the corner and, "Morning, morning." And it was the same routine day after day after day. And I'll miss that tremendously. At the end of our program every day, we would have the word from the Word. And I probably heard John read these verses more than any other verses in the whole Bible. So I just want to leave you with that. It's Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. "Wherefore, seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God." John Gordon lived those verses every day and was always uplifting to those who were around him. I'm going to miss you, old buddy. Hope to see you soon.
I will call upon the Lord,
I will call upon the Lord,
who is worthy to be
who is
praised.
worthy to be
So
praised.
shall I be
So
saved from
shall
my
I be
enemies.
saved from my
I
enemies.
know the Lord liveth,
And blessed be the rock, let the God of my salvation be exalted.
the Lord liveth,
And blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted.
I will call upon the Lord,
I will call upon the
who
Lord,
is worthy to be
who is
praised.
worthy to be praised.
Shall I be
So
saved from
shall
my
I be
enemies?
saved from my enemies.
You know the Lord liveth,
and blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted.
the Lord liveth,
And blessed be the rock, and let the God of my salvation be exalted.
I will call upon the Lord.
I will call upon the Lord.
Well, certainly I have a lot of fond memories of Uncle John, too many to even begin to count. But one that I want to share today is a time when Uncle John, Andrew, Uncle Scott, and myself were all playing golf at Fayette Country Club. Now, one of the things that Uncle John liked to do was talk, as you all are well aware. But he would talk smack as we were out there playing golf, and this was a regular occurrence. But this one particular time, I had planned ahead. We had a video camera, and we were videoing ourselves hitting golf balls, kind of watching our swings. And Uncle John would always talk smack. He would say he's going to come out of his shoes. You guys just watch this. I'll show you how it's done. And he would talk about how hard he was going to swing and how far the ball was going to go. That was a regular thing. And so planning ahead, I decided that what I would do is on one particular par 5, when I knew that he would say something, I would have Uncle Scott video and interview Uncle John. And as he was interviewing, he was asking him what he was doing and what he was about to do, how hard he was going to swing and how far the ball was going to go. And Uncle John is talking and really hamming it up. Well, in the background, I'm walking up to the tee, and I change Uncle John's ball for one of those exploding golf balls. And Uncle John didn't know anything about it, but he finished the interview and he stepped up, and boy, he kept talking. I'm going to come out of my shoes on this one. And he swung as hard as he could swing. And when he hit that ball, powder exploded everywhere. And we literally laughed for probably 5 minutes. Couldn't wait to get back and watch the video of Uncle John exploding that golf ball. But I will remember that for as long as I live. I loved Uncle John, loved spending time with him, and I know you all did as well. He was a blessing to us all.
Hi everybody, my name is Lisa Wallace. I'm John's niece. I just wanted to take a minute to say that I'm so very thankful to have had an uncle like him to show me how to live life in such a humble and loving way. Like many of you have said, no matter what, he made you feel like the most important person in the room whenever he saw you. I thank him for those endless examples that he taught me how to live and love big. So 143 Uncle Johnny, I'll see you later.
My favorite thing about Papa is when he gave me a Papa hug. A Papa hug is when he squeezes really tight and goes, I love you, Papa.
Hey everyone, I'm Neely Gordon. I'm also John Ray's first grandchild. It's definitely something to be proud of to be his grandchild. He's an awesome man, and he'll truly be missed, and I can't wait till I can see him again. I love you, Papa.
We're here at the house singing and filming. It's just a few days since our dad transitioned on into heaven. And it was a wonderful, beautiful moment. Some of the songs we want to share with you today are songs that we were singing with him as he moved on into the next world. It was such a blessing to us to be able to sing him into glory, to know that the last thing he heard was us singing praises, and the first thing he heard in the next life was the angels singing praises. Ooh, yes. And so we wanted to share with you guys the songs that we were singing with him. Sing along with us and worship with us and enjoy praising the Lord together.
Amen.
Amen. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a land on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. When the shadows of this life are thrown, I'll fly away. Like a bird from these prison bars have flown, I'll fly away. Oh, I'll fly away. Oh, glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. Oh, just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away to a land where joy shall never end. I'll fly away.
Hi, you guys. I just wanted to share how much I loved Johnny, and the first time I met Johnny and he hugged me, I thought, okay, the hug's over. Well, the hug wasn't over. And then when I thought, okay, the hug's probably going to be over now, the hug wasn't over. And I grew to love those hugs. I will miss those hugs for the rest of my life. Thank you, Johnny. Love you.
Well, looking back a little bit, I was lucky enough to be stationed at Columbus, Mississippi, my first 4 years in the Air Force. So nearly every weekend, I would drive over and spend time with Johnny and Anita and the boys, and Martha wasn't there yet. So, but we played a lot of softball together at I think in the church league there, and so many hours of ping pong. In the garage, and I appreciate Anita allowing us to have that time, and I just enjoyed watching the twins grow up. But I was visiting once over there, and we were playing golf, and Keith Harris was with us, and he and I had planned on replacing Johnny's golf ball with an exploding one. And so we were on the tee box, and I was acting like I was interviewing Johnny, and so I got him to turn just enough to where his back was towards the ball, and Keith replaced it with the exploding one. And so then before he hit it, Johnny kept saying, "I'm gonna knock the cover off of this ball." And it was just so funny. So when he made contact and the powder went everywhere, we just busted a gut laughing so hard. And there is actually video proof, I believe, of that somewhere. Keith may have it, or not sure, but anyway. I just always enjoyed being being with him. We didn't have to have anything planned, just as long as we were together. From going with him to the radio station early in the morning and visiting with Chris there, and then going out for breakfast afterwards and meeting so many people everywhere we went. It was everybody who just, "Hey, John Gordon." Like cheers, kind of. But back in the 70s, when your big brother leaves to go off to college, and you have no idea if he'll return and settle in Pocahontas, Arkansas. And little did I know then what a town full of wonderful people would take him in and love on him and accept him as one of their own. For a man that wasn't born in Fayette, he sure won the town over with his smile.
And probably those big hugs.
His love, his big old hugs, and his beautiful voice, and of course his big as life personality. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you that loved him so much. It was so evident at the retirement party just how much it showed that he was the richest man in Fayette. So when I would call, he would always answer the phone with, "Hey, old buddy." He was such a special, godly man, big brother and friend to me. I'll miss you, buddy. Love you.
Wow, my Uncle John, what a guy. Where do you begin to even talk to about how he affected people? Uncle John was just an amazing guy. He always laughed, always made you laugh. I never had a bad time with my Uncle John. My wife and kids and I never had a bad time with Uncle John. It was just always so positive. And, you know, he taught a lot in crazy little ways. You know, if you could teach patience through eating shrimp, I guess it's a possibility, but I do recall Uncle John peeling all of his shrimp as everybody's just sort of, you know, macking their food and, you know, like there's no tomorrow. And Uncle John peeled all of his shrimp and then got ready and sat down and ate them and enjoyed them. So I guess that could be viewed as patience. And he also taught me how to crack a nut open, a peanut, and eat. But Uncle John affected so many people with where he lived and what he did, and his Christianity and his family life, and just loved being around him. And wow, what a hugger. That guy could give a bear hug too, elongated, the way they're supposed to be. So I just want to take this time to thank you, Uncle John, for being an amazing man and an amazing person to look up to, and someone to always come to if you ever needed anything. I knew you had an answer and could deal with it and help out. But we're gonna miss you, and always love you. And wow, this video is super long. Didn't intend to do that.
I've been wrestling for a while, trying to think of the best stories to describe John Gordon. But while there are plenty of great stories that I've been a part of or heard about, I think it's important to focus on who he was every day, the things he repeated, his routine, the way he modeled life for us and for me. And I'd like to talk about 3 of those today. The first is he greeted everyone with a smile, and not just a small smile, a big smile that carried through in his voice, and sometimes even a bear hug to you. And that joy that drove the smiles and the bear hugs, that was infectious. The second thing that I remember is that he was a helper. He volunteered in his community, and he worked hard for the county. He even had trouble retiring because he saw the need to help out the county, and he wanted to keep helping and leave it in the best shape possible. And it also showed up when he would bring 5 bags of ice to a grandchild's birthday party when he was asked for maybe 1 bag of ice. The third thing is that he lived his priorities. He spent his time, his money, and his energy on the things that were important to him, including his faith, his family, and his friends. Many times he would be visiting us. He visited many weekends, and it would be coming up late on Saturday night, and we try to get him to stay over at our house. We have an extra bed, you know, but no, he needed to get back. He wanted to get back to his faith family, to Crossview, to sing and worship with them. He had breakfast with his friends. He had a routine of that. He was always at events like games and recitals, and you know, even in feasting, family feasts, he would end every prayer with, "May we realize our complete and utter dependency upon you." So right now, for the past few days, my eyes have been stinging a little bit, maybe a lot. My heart stings still from this loss, but I hope it never stops stinging, because I believe that helps me to remember the man he was and the man he would want me to be.
Oh, I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Oh, I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. To us, say you are perfect. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. To us. Oh, love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think, 'cause you know just deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still in love. Love, you're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. You're loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Stuart Downing, and I am husband to Kimberly and son-in-law to John and Karen. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you as we celebrate the life of John Gordon. John is without question one of the most thankful and grateful and joyful people that I have ever met, and likely will ever meet. He would often, even up to and including his last days here in this world, refer to himself as just so blessed, and he was just so eternally grateful and thankful for all that God had given to him. And above these things, John recognized what it truly means to be blessed, to actually be blessed. And again, he thanked God for his blessings, and he did that daily. And he was such a phenomenal model for me in what being thankful really looks like, and what being blessed really looks like. John was so perpetually filled with joy that it seeped from his pores, so much so that he couldn't stand it. He was truly joyful in all circumstances, from the most basic and mundane of things to doing little random acts of kindness for others, like going to the store late at night because he had heard you in passing mention that you really wanted some ice cream, or that you needed something. John would go above and beyond and out of his way to make sure that you had what you wanted and what you needed. He'd give a stranger on the street the shirt off of his back. And even when John would go on these little errands and excursions to help get somebody something they needed, I had the privilege of being able to go with him a time or two, and you couldn't go anywhere with John without running into 10 people that he knew. And what should be a 5 or a 10 or a 15-minute excursion becomes a 20 or a 30 or a 45, even an hour-long excursion, because John had to stop and talk to every single person that he knew. Not out of duty or obligation, but because he genuinely loved talking with them, because he genuinely loved them. And it showed. Of all the people that I ever ran into when I was out with John, of all the people that I ever knew that also knew John, they never had anything negative to say about him. Quite the opposite, as a matter of fact. They only ever had the best things to say about him. And John never gave them a reason to not have those wonderful things to say. People only ever had the kindest, nicest, sweetest things to say about John, and he about them. Not only did everybody have the best things to say about John, but he only ever had the best things to say about others. John only ever saw the best in other people. Always. And there'd be so many times where I can recall that me or so many other people or we were ready to jump on somebody or criticize them or complain, and John would be right there to gently correct me and put me back into the right frame of thinking. And he'd say something simple like, well, they had the best intentions, or they're doing the best they know how. He'd find some way to divert my attention to the positive attributes that somebody possessed. He was a man of such wisdom, but not just practical or logical wisdom, but biblical truth, biblical wisdom. And he was so quick to share with anyone seeking guidance. I can't even count the quantity of times that John has been a godly counselor for me in this life, whether it be for the sake of my marriage, or for the sake of raising my children, or seeking guidance from him professionally, or even as a friend, as a brother in Christ. John only and always had biblical guidance to offer. And this is because his whole heart and whole focus was on loving and serving Christ and loving and serving others. And I often wonder now, in retrospect, how can I be more like John Gordon? But I know if he heard me or any one of us ask that question, he would say, don't try to be like me. Try to be like Christ. Live according to the Word of God.
And so with that, I'll end by sharing a single verse from the book of Psalms, chapter 119, that I heard John quote regularly. And it's this: how can a young man keep his way pure? By keeping it according to your word. John, we love you, and you will forever be in our hearts.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Ray Gordon. As Pop said, I'm his eldest son, the eldest son of John Ray Gordon. Definitely a blessed son for him to be my father. I'm blessed more than I can even imagine and can describe. Thankful that I've got to spend the many years I got to spend with him. He's been with me through hard times, good times, bad times. As I said, the good, bad, and the ugly. But one thing I can definitely say about him is he always taught me to be an honest man. That was something that he was. He was honest. He was a man of character, a man of class, a true statesman, a gentleman and a scholar, and exemplified the true love of Jesus throughout his life. I was there to hold his hand as he passed away. Just before that, I had leaned over to him in his last few minutes that he was alive. It was the last person that he talked to. I told him that he's going to get to be with Grandpa Gordon and Grandma Gordon and all of our family up there and rejoicing with the angels. And he looked me in the eye and he said, yes. And that was the last thing he ever said. That was what he always wanted to do, was be with the Lord. And he exemplified the life of a Christian. He was extremely Christ-like, the closest Christian example I've ever known. He loved singing, loved people, loved to be around folks. Is Karen, as he calls her, Sweetness. Sweetness said he just loved to ride. He'd love to just get out of the house and just go somewhere. He'd look at her and say, let's just go somewhere. Said take off on a ride or go eat somewhere or do something fun. I'm thankful for the life that he lived. Think back to many times, many things that I could say and go on and on and on about. But there's not enough time and not enough video footage for me to do that. A few little things about him. A lot of people didn't realize this, but he was a track star in Arkansas, also a weightlifting star. He held the state record for the largest amount of weight for a leg press in the state of Arkansas for many, many years, a little over 1,500 pounds. But he would never really go into it. He told the kids that's about it. Because it wasn't about him, it was about God. One thing he raised us up to be and always told me over and over and over is being an honest man. To tell the truth and to do what's right and what you feel is right. And one of the things he always said was the truth will stand when the world's on fire. And that's the truth. That's him. That reminds me, too, of back when he used to be on the radio station, do the morning call program in our hometown of Fayette. Towards the end of his show, he'd tell you that if that don't wind you watch, your spring's broke. And later on through the show, he wound up moving it to where the ending of the show, he did what was called the Word from the Word. And that was where he would read, but most of the time would quote a scripture from the Bible over the radio, and he reached many people that way, and that was a blessing to so many folks. I've heard many people talk about that. I also think back to how that he always loved everybody that we loved, girlfriends, wives, spouses, whatever. He loved them as we loved him. Loved us through the good times, the bad times, and the hard times. There were many times where didn't know I was going to make it through, but he was my rock, and he got me through it, and through the grace of God. And even though I know he's no longer here in person, walking around this earth, but I can guarantee you he is watching over us all. He's in no more pain, no more suffering. Was a fighter with liver cancer, battled it for several years, and winded up. He would tell the doctors that if they would tell him something was going on, he'd go, well, look, God's got this. God's got this. And that was something that he always let them know. He also let them know that he was praying for them, praying for all of his medical teams and all the folks that worked with him. He prayed for his folks that he worked with on a day-to-day basis as well with his jobs. But he wanted the best for everyone. He was definitely a huge blessing to many, many folks. Had done many, many things that he would never talk about, nor will I talk about, to help others. Because he didn't do it for the recognition of the praise. He did it for the love of God. Because that's what God would want him to do. Because that was his number one priority in life. He loved all of us. So happy with his grandchildren and proud of them and his children and of course his children that he gained with Karen when he married her. And just thankful for the life he lived. I could go on and on with many stories. But there's not enough video footage and time to do that. But he definitely wants you to know that he loved the Lord. And he didn't have to tell you. You could see it anytime you saw him or came in contact with him or came in contact with someone that he had come in contact with. A lot of folks I've heard so many times that they're going to miss his hugs. They would say that you hadn't had a real hug unless you had one from John Ray Gordon. And because when he hugged you with the love of the Lord. Loved his family. Loved his friends. And was just such a blessing. Like I said, I could say many stories, but I'm not going to go into those. But I'm just thankful for the life he lived. Thankful he's no longer in any pain. He's rejoicing with the angels in heaven and enjoying getting to see God's face. Like the hymn says, oh, I want to see him, look upon his face. There to sing forever of his amazing grace. And that was something that he always wanted to do. And now he's getting to do that and celebrate. But I just thank you all for loving him as he loved you and loves you with the love of the Lord. And I pray that you'll all learn from the way that he loved and try and love others that way as well. And until I get to see him again face to face in heaven, it's going to be a rejoicing day. But for now, I love you, Pop. 143.
Hey there, this is Kimberly, and I'm Karen's oldest daughter, and I'm blessed with the opportunity to come before you today and share with you a little bit about our Papa. 16 years ago, Papa married our mom, and I have 4 blood siblings. Well, there's 4 of us. Me, Kevin is older than me, then Christy and Josh. We were the Baileys in Fayette. Some of you may remember us. And when my mom finally got Papa in her life, she was able to truly be her independent self, but with somebody that was truly happy deep in his soul to be doing exactly what she wanted to be doing. And, you know, no matter where she wanted to go or what she wanted to do, he wanted to be there. And it's just such a wonderful blessing to know that your mom had somebody like that in her life. And John was really one of the most selfless people that I've ever met. We had to be so secretive when we were at the house, and we could not even give a whisper of wanting some ice cream or wanting some chocolate chip cookies, because it could be 9:30 at night, y'all. And I'm telling you, he'd be in that vehicle and he would be to Walmart and he would come back with whatever he heard us saying that we wanted. And just such a wonderful man of God. I love to talk about theology, and you know, me and Papa would always sit around and talk about it. So many good memories and so many fundamental truths that he and I discussed during our time on this earth about Jesus and how much he loves us and how much our lives on this earth are made to worship and serve him. And I just, so much of my faith I can ground in truths and in moments that I had with Papa. And you know, when Mom called us on Tuesday of the week he passed, Martha and I rushed to Fayette, and that day was the day we called hospice. And hospice nurse was in the living room, and Mama was introducing the hospice nurse to all of the kids in the living room, and she said, and here's Martha, and here's John Tucker, and Papa was sitting up, and he pointed at me because Mama had skipped me, and he said, and that's our daughter Kimberly. And that's the way it always has been with him. He loves people instantly. He makes you feel accepted instantly. There is no judgment. There is just love. And, you know, that night was the last night he was alive. And it was about 5:30 in the morning, and we thought we were going to lose him then. And he was in a lot of pain. And I was crying out to God, why are you not taking him? This is too much. Too much for him, too much for us. And I wanted what I wanted. And, you know, later on that day, that was Wednesday, we were able to be in the living room all together with the sun shining and singing him into glory. And, you know, I look back on that moment when I was begging God to take him, and it was so dark, and he was in such pain. And if that would have been our last memory of him, it would have just not been nearly as sweet. And you know, that's the way life is. There are those dark moments where we cry out and we want to know why. Why, God? Why is this happening? But you know, we can't see that sweet moment that's coming. And we don't know when it will come, but it will come. To those of us who believe in Jesus as the only way to heaven, and whether or not we receive that good blessing on this earth or in the next, we will receive it. And Papa believed with all his heart those fundamental truths, and I just want to thank him for all that he did for us in this life, and I can't wait to see you again. And as you always told us every time we told you bye, 143, I love you.
Hey, John Tucker here. You may be wondering why I'm wearing this shirt in particular for such an occasion as this. This shirt was a shirt that I earned when I started my new job as a financial advisor with Edward Jones. I earned it as a thing that we call the Triple Crown Award, which I could explain, but you won't care. that said, the reason that I earned this is why I'm wearing this shirt. I wasn't going to earn it. Wasn't going to have the honor. I was new, just starting out. Only been able to, only licensed for a day. And I called my dad. I needed to get my first client. And I called my dad. And I talked to Dad, and he said that he really wanted to be my first client. And so we talked through some things, and you know how Dad was. He didn't really have a lot of money. He was never super financially overblessed, but Dad wanted to help, and so Dad went and got a loan. He borrowed money to be able to be my first client, and that's what Daddy did. That's what Dad did our whole life. He would do anything he could. He would move heaven and earth just to help us, to help his children. He was that way with everyone, but especially with us. It's hard for me to imagine taking up the mantle of being John Gordon now. That's a big deal to me. And it is an honor to wear his name, but it is far and away more so a gargantuan responsibility. I want to be like him. When he started losing weight after taking chemo, he gave me some of his old clothes, and I remember the first day I put some of them on. I looked nice, but they smelled like Dad. I walked around all day, met with clients, talked to people, smelling like my dad. Scripture talks about our lives being a pleasing aroma to God. And that's what my dad's life was. It was a pleasing aroma to God that smelled a beautiful fragrance of grace and love and laughter and joy, boundless joy. And it affected everyone that he was around. He smelled so good in heaven. And so to wear his clothes that day and smell like him that day, it made me want to smell like my dad. Made me want to live my life as a pleasing aroma to God, so that as others around would smell that and would know that there's something special about me and the God that I follow. So much more that I could say, but I don't want to dominate everything with everyone. Dad, I love you, and I will think about you every day, and I want to do everything I can to be the John Gordon that you were.
So what do I say about my daddy? I've been thinking those words for the last several days, and it's been hard to come up with something because I think there's just so many things that I could say. I'm not sure what would be the best thing to say to sum up his life in just a few short moments. But if I could talk about just a couple of things, I would talk about the significance of 143. And for those of you who don't know or have always wondered what that was, 1 is for I, 4 is for love, and 3 is for you. So anytime he wrote 143, that meant I love you. Or here lately, he was writing 144, which is I love y'all, which we all thought that was funny. But anyway, that was something really cool that he's been doing for a very long time. Another thing that he taught me early on from a little kid was he would hold my hand and he would squeeze it 3 times, which meant I love you. And then I'd squeeze back, I love you too. And even up until minutes before he died, he could still squeeze and was still able to squeeze, I love you. And I could squeeze it back. Even though he couldn't talk, he still knew that I was there and knew that I was telling him I loved him. So that was something special that he taught me that I carry on to my kids. And I've taught them that now, and they know the significance of that, and now they understand why it's important. So if something ever happens and they can't talk, they can still say I love you, and I know they're in there. So that was neat thing that he taught me as a kid. thing he taught me as an adult is really how to truly worship Jesus. And I had to unlearn and relearn so many doctrines, it seems like, over my childhood and a young adult life. And I have finally got to really truly understand what it means to worship Jesus and understand what a relationship with Jesus looks like. And obviously he modeled that very well throughout his entire life. But just learning how to be free in how I worshiped God and learn how to let myself go and not worry about what was going on around me or who might look at me or who might see something, but just totally think about just me and Jesus or me and God. And music really helps me in that worship. And I know there's all kinds of different worships and worship styles and how people choose to do it or not choose to do it. And I understand all of that. And of course, it's good to be sensitive to other people's styles of worship. But when it's just you and God, and the way I worship is through music, and I have learned how to raise my hands, how to clap in excitement for what God's going to do, how to be excited, how to just show God how I'm feeling inside in an outward expressive way. And my daddy did that, and he loved music and he loved worship music. He loved to sing, obviously. He was a great singer, great bass singer, and a great leader. And he did that growing up all the way from Church of Christ. He was a great song leader, always led with enthusiasm and with excitement. And I loved that, and I grew up getting to see that. And then I also got to see that transition into a more expressive type of worship where he really believed what he was saying and singing on the inside and felt free to just raise his hand and praise to God. And how freeing that was for me, because it took me a really long time to be able to do that. It's just been in the last couple years that I have learned to worship in that way, and it's just something so special about that. And he's been doing that a long time, but man, he was just a great guy. And I have no idea. I could talk about him for hours on this weird computery video situation that we've got going on, but so glad that we can sit and talk about that for just a second and just honor him. And I know there's so many people that want to say things, and I don't want to take up all the time, but he's the greatest man I've ever known. And I finally had to admit to my husband the other day that he was my favorite. Daddy was my favorite. But now Kyle's my favorite. so that's good. But man, he was such a big guy and just had the best hugs, and he taught me how to hug. And that's why I'm such a good hugger, is because he taught me how to hug and love others. And he's amazing, and he's so happy where he is. So don't be sad for him. I know we miss him and we're sad for ourselves, but he is where his heart has always longed to be. And he's told me for a long time that we are just spiritual beings having an earthly experience. And he is finally getting to see his faith become sight. And I couldn't be more happy for him. And I'm a little jealous. And Dad, can't wait to see you soon. Love you guys.
Sorry. Of all the songs I was blessed to sing, that was the shortest one and the only one I guess I could learn in Russian. So. Love me so. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Let it snow, let it snow. Let it snow. Let it snow. All my strength, all my mind, love the Lord, my God with all.